X-Blades, or Only Blade if you're Russian, is an action-adventure game released in 2007 on the PC, PlayStation 3 and 360. It was developed by Gaijin Entertainment and published by Topware Interactive, a company best known for releasing 2 Worlds. So you know we're in good hands. Right off the bat, before I even talk about the game itself, I want to talk about its pre-release art. Most games would show, say, screenshots to show off the game, maybe a usually bullshit trailer, etc. The marketing team for X-Blades, on the other hand, went straight to business and focused on arse and tits. In fact, the cover of the game itself looks more like pornographic fan art, which to me is just an odd choice, because I mean, look at her. She looks like a sex doll that got shot into the fucking sun. I mean, what's with that skin tone? It's like a fucking tomato in a thong. And as if that wasn't enough, after the US launch failed, they hired a model to spice up the UK launch. The pictures are hilarious. It's a bad Photoshop job, with the model just dropped on some screenshots like 2-year-old Jimmy on DeviantArt trying to make himself look cool. Also, I'm pretty sure the clothes are edited on. That's slightly disturbing. Here would be where I talk in depth about the story, and I'm frankly not sure what developers cared about the story by the time they were actually programming the game. It's so infrequently mentioned that by the time the next cutscene popped up, I had long forgotten what happened in the last one. For what I could gather, Ayumi is a treasure hunter who finds a map in some shop leading to some artifact. Shit goes south right off the bat, and we're treated to probably the most stilted fight scene I have ever seen. That stiltedness carries into the rest of the game, by the way. It really ruins the supposedly epic fight scenes when he looks at the cast of Thunderbirds trying to reenact The Matrix. She finds the artifact, along with the first boss of the game, imaginatively called The Light.
Now I must kill you.
In case you're wondering, the villain is called The Dark. Yeah lads, don't get too imaginative, you might have a fucking aneurysm. She touches said artifact and unleashes the dark into the world, I think. She also is then cursed by the artifact and sets out on an adventure to cure it. All the darkness amounts to in this game is the sky going from bright and sunny to grape flavoured. The story tries to be serious but just comes off as silly. It feels like a dodgy Tomb Raider fanfiction featuring a main character so bland and vapid, I honestly kept forgetting she was supposed to have a personality.
Oh, and I always work alone. Why would I want a partner? I'd have to share the loot.
She's the usual sassy, edgy loner who saves the world by murdering fucking everything, because apparently she's just that good. On the other hand, a few chapters in, you meet Jay. It's about all I remember about him. He pops in, shows off his light magic, points Ayumi towards the next artifact.
They say there's a powerful artifact containing the light power hidden in these mountains.
There's an artifact of light? If it's really so powerful, it must be able to lift the curse.
Curse? There's a curse on you?
Gets his ass kicked by the second boss, and then turns evil, due to plot. Ayumi, by touching the second artifact, gains the power of light, which takes away her dark powers. The dark powers I never used. Because they were shit. This would be a good time to talk about the combat in X-Blades. It's boring. There's only one melee attack button and one shoot button. The rest of the buttons are used for magic powers you buy throughout the game. Most of said powers, in my opinion, are fucking useless. Need to fight a horde of melee enemies? Mash X, spam Earthquake, and spin to win. Need to fight ranged enemies? Shoot fireballs. Your guns are mostly useless until you get a skill called Furious Shooting, and even then, shooting doesn't add to your rage meter, rage being what you need to cast magic. That means, if you have no melee enemies to fight, the only way to gain rage is to destroy red crystals lying around the maps, or get hit. Killing with guns adds to rage, but it adds so little it makes it absolutely worthless. Then you add in enemies who teleport away, if you use anything other than Earthquake, making it impossible to gain rage without getting hit, and I really begin to question who the fuck thought this was a good idea. It'd be like in Devil May Cry if Dante could only fire his guns if he got kicked in the dick 50 times. Melee combat is so weak sounding, it feels more like a slap fight than an actual battle to the death. Ayumi's pistol blades sound less like deadly swords and more like 2 butter knives being hit against each other. It doesn't help that Ayumi never shuts up in combat. She's so loud and obnoxious and only has about 3 grunts in combat, I actually began to phase her out so much that I kept forgetting she has dialogue in boss fights, which by the way, also only about 3 or 4 lines. The combat is so trivial in most areas that I almost never felt like I was struggling. The game tries to make combat harder by giving certain enemies gimmicks, but that just leads to them being super fucking annoying. Ghosts that can phase through walls, mages teleport away if you use anything other than earthquake, stone fly things that can only be killed by fireball, and that's about it for enemy types. Prepare to see those 3 to 4 enemies pop up over and over again until the credits roll, and you will see them a lot. The entire game runs off the tactic of locking you in an area until you kill the enemies in the room. It'll then do the same thing 3 seconds later. Other than throwing in monster generators, it almost never changes. Want to know something that really hurts the combat early on in the game? No block or dodge. You gain a teleport ability that runs off your rage, but it's mostly useless and uses an ability slot that could be used for something more useful. The lack of dodge only hurts the game until you realise the game trivialises combat even more by just letting you heal whenever the fuck you want, by letting you spend a small amount of souls. It's like having a little hot dog stand follow you around everywhere as you feed him the souls of the damned you just wrenched from your still warm enemies' corpses. You can buy healing items in games like Devil May Cry, but the cost goes up a lot per purchase, and I never felt I wanted to, as the combat was so fun. In X-Blades, I didn't want to have to restart the levels over every time I died, because the combat was just so boring. Hell, 2 of the levels don't even have combat. One is just dodging spikes till the level ends, and the other is dodging blades with a roll maneuver that only works when you don't fucking want it to. Need to jump from platform to platform? Better hope Hayumi's on her meds so she'll dive faster than most football players. Here's a tip if you for some reason want to play this game. When you need to jump platforms, hold down the shoot button. Ayumi will slowly descend like she's Jesus, and sometimes this will save you. But I doubt it. Let's talk about the graphics. The graphics are bland and boring. Most of the environments look the same, bland grey ruins over and over again. The only different type of environment I remember was the second level beach, and even that had grey ruins at the end. While I think graphics aren't super important, having the same environment over and over again really makes it a chore to slog through. I've already discussed how Ayumi looks like she got a tan from the Human Torch, but rest assured, all the other characters look bad in their own way. Jay looks like a JoJo original character drawn on DeviantArt by a 12-year-old. And the bosses are either floating orbs that shoot you, or the light dark wolves that look like shitty WoW characters slapped together in 5 minutes. Somehow the graphics seem to get worse in the cutscenes. They're pixelated and slightly blurred, they look like they were rendered on a 1990s Dell computer. Even the character models don't escape this terror. Everyone other than Ayumi seems to be made out of big polygonal squares, making them all look like fucking papercraft. This is especially obvious with the light dark bosses. Ayumi somewhat escapes this. Her skin tone changes to something more realistic, but she's still a slight sanding away from being able to cut cheese with her tits. Other than that, I can't really say anything else. The lighting is passable, and other than one level, the far-off backgrounds are okay. The audio production, on the other hand, is awful, ranging from the already mentioned weak-sounding weapons to probably the most generic soundtrack I have ever heard. It has absolutely no personality. It's like a soundtrack made entirely out of FL Studio demo loops. The only thing I imagine when I hear this is there's a boardroom full of old men screaming at some intern and garage band, "Make it hip, damn it, or you're fired!" Oh no, sorry, there is one track that sounds unique. I've got no idea what that's supposed to be, but it sounds like I'm about to be attacked by a horde of fucking Ewoks. The voice acting isn't any better. Ayumi sounds like she was voiced by a 40-year-old woman they found on lunch break.
Yeah, right.
Jay sounds like they forgot to get someone to voice him, so they got the coffee boy to fill in and never got around to replacing it. And the light dark voices sound like a kid trying to give his best edgy evil voice.
Don't do that!
In fact, the best voice acting in the game goes to this old guy, because he doesn't say fucking anything. Actually, the enemies don't make noise at all. The odd grunts every now and again, but other than that, they're oddly quiet. Or maybe they weren't quiet, and they were just being drowned out by the soundtrack, like every other piece of dialogue in this game, especially in boss fights. Speaking of boss fights, the final boss is hilarious. He freezes you a lot, runs around super fast like he's fucking Sonic the Hedgehog, and throws boxing jabs at you. It's about as imaginative as it sounds, and about as easy as it fucking sounds. The most annoying part of the fact is his boxing jabs can somehow stun lock you. And as if that wasn't enough, after beating him you get 2 terrible endings. One of them, Ayumi just straight up murders Jay, that's if you used any of the dark powers, which I don't understand why you ever would, they were shit. Or and mind you, this is supposed to be the good ending, 2 light orbs descend on the main characters, throw them up into the air, and suddenly they're sitting back to back on what I'm guessing is the beach from the second level, and then it just cuts to credits. That's all you're getting. And that's about it, really. X-Blades is a bland, boring game with no real personality of its own. It tries to be somewhat serious, but it's just really laughable. If you just want to play this game because you saw one of the many rather infamous ads for the game, don't bother, it loses novelty value pretty damn fast, and you're left with a basic, lifeless husk of a game. Nothing in this game is interesting, none of it is worth your time. Unless you get it for like 50p like I did, it's not worth bothering with at all.